Wish you all a very good morning. Thanks for joining us at 10 a.m. on a Saturday. I know it's pretty early to wake up on a weekend, so thanks for joining. My name is Orzuma. I look after the operations of Jambori. With me here today, we have Mr. Sanjay Kaushik. So he has been a visa consultant, visa expert for more than 27 years. So just Sanjay, why don't you tell a little bit about yourself?
Hi, good morning everyone. So am I audible to you? Alright. So I worked with the embassy as a visa specialist with the US Embassy in New Delhi, and then I've been now helping students with their visa consultations and all the documentation and the whole process. So here I'm going to talk about the visa do's and don'ts.
So before we proceed, some ground rules. While we are speaking, whether it's me or Sanjay, when we are speaking, please don't type any questions in the chat window, because we will not be able to read the questions, answer the questions, and also do the presentation. So please hold on to your questions. Keep a piece of paper with you. Keep noting down the questions. If we ask, do you have any questions? If Sanjay asks, do you have any questions? That's the time when you should be typing the questions. Otherwise, please don't type anything in the chat window. Also, at the end of the webinar, we will have a question answer session. So even if we are not able to answer your questions during the presentation, we will definitely try to answer as many of them as possible during the question answer session. Another bit, if at any point if you stop hearing my voice, or if you stop stop seeing the PPT, then please log out and log in again. There might be an internet connectivity issue at your end. So if you stop hearing our voice, if you stop seeing the PPT, log out and log in again. That should fix the problem. Okay, so over to you, Sanjay.
Thanks, Arjuna. Alright, so I'm going to talk about the visa do's and don'ts. So the first step is once you get the I-20, then you should start working on your visa application. Step one would be to get your I-20 and make sure that all the details on your I-20 are correct and they match with your passport. So here we're going to talk about when you think of going to the US, and once you receive the I-20, then we're going to talk about the visa documentation, the visa process. Of course, once your visa is approved, then what happens at the port of entry. So these are the kind of topics, agenda that we're going to be addressing today. So step one is when you think of going to the US, it is very important that you take your prerequisites. Prerequisites like GMAT, GRE, SAT, TOEFL, IELTS, all these would make you stand apart from other students, because there are two kinds of students. One, those who want to go to the US, and one, those who want to go and study in the US. Anyone who wants to go and study in the US would have possibly taken these exams. Alright, that shows your intent that you are really serious and you want to go and study in the US, because you have sorted out your details in terms of the GRE score, and then of course the selection of your universities. The selection of the university should purely be based on quality of college, quality of education, the clarity of your specialization. It should also be based on your career goals, because when a visa officer is taking your interview, he wants to know whether you qualify under the visa law or not. And visa law clearly states that anyone who's going to the US, he should project that he's a legitimate student, and then he's got enough reasons to come back. So your selection of the college should not be the low cost, that it's affordable, the weather is very good in that location, or one of my relatives suggested that this university is good. Most of the students would have, after taking their GRE, GMAT and other exams, they would look at a mix of colleges. Once you get the admits, then you select a university based on the course content and curriculum. And also, most of the time, students would have a mix, but we've also seen that, students would definitely apply to a cluster of colleges, let's say in San Francisco, LA, or maybe in New York. So the selection of the university should not be based on the location. It should be based on your career goals and how the course content of that particular university will match with your aspirations. Apply to colleges with common qualities, and of course You have to select and decide which is the best fit for you. During the interview, never talk about the affordability or the weather or that one of my relatives suggested this college. It has to be purely based on the course content, the curriculum, and of course the professors. When you start filling a visa application form, make sure that all the details on your forms are absolutely correct, because the DS 160 form stays in the system for 99 years from the day you apply for a visa. So the first step is, after getting your I-20, make sure, like I said, all the details are correct. Look at the course start date, not the orientation date. So the course start date, you cannot apply for a visa 120 days prior to your college start date, right? So once you start filling a visa application form, look at the admission date, that when does your college start, not the orientation. Okay, right. So when we talk about the timing, usually the colleges in the US would start sometime in August and September. So 120 days means that March, April is the time when you will start applying for a visa. But the best time to apply for your visa would be starting mid-May until end of July. That's the peak. Because anyone who applied for a visa in, let's say, March or April, if he gets refused, unfortunately, then he has to reapply. When he reapplies, most of the dates would be available towards the end of July or beginning of August. So the officer is looking at a different mode of his decision making. So make sure that you have taken your early admission, you've completed all the process in terms of getting your I-20, and once you get the I-20, make sure that you start applying for your visa early.
Okay, so Sanjay, I have a question here.
Yeah.
So you say that at the university selection step, students should not go by the whether they have relatives or not, or friends or not. But at least what I have seen with a lot of our students is that they want to go to a particular state because they have relatives there, and if they go to a university there, so of course their cost of living and everything would be less. So a lot of people have this genuine reason that they are applying to a certain college because that is where the relatives live. So I'm sure that is that is going to be the case with a lot of today's attendees also. So in such a case where people genuinely want to go to a college because of relatives living there, what should should the student not go there? How should what should be the answer in that case?
So what I would recommend is, when a student is selecting a university based on, because of course the living cost and cost does matter, then if he has a relative there, but still at the same time he should apply to different universities to show a mix, and out of those mix then he can look at the university which is where he actually wants to go and get into the course content and curriculum, and then define it during the interview that I did apply to various colleges, I've got X number of admits, but I've chosen this particular university because of the specialization that is the college is offering me. So that's one way of dealing with it. So I would recommend that at the applying stage, do have a mix, but at the end you can choose where you want to go.
Right. So if I understand you correctly, so if a student wants to go to California, let's say, and that is where he wants to go, so even if he does not go, or even if he does not go, you are saying that at the application stage he should apply to a few colleges outside the state of California, maybe like Florida, Texas, and after he gets 4 or 5 I-20s, then he goes to a college that is in California. Is that that situation will work?
Absolutely. That's probably the best way of handling a situation like this.
And see, there are colleges in the US where you can get admission without the GMAT GRE asset. In the admissions criteria, you are not required to take the GMAT GRE. So in that case also, should students take the exam?
Like I mentioned, and also in the PPT it says it's the differentiator. So let's understand. In one day there could be 50 or 100 students applying for visas. Most of the Indian students prefer taking these exams because they are looking at the quality of education. The officer doesn't know that who's a good student, who's a bad student, or a student who has different intent. So the GRE and a GMAT shows his seriousness and his intent to go and study there. So during the course of the interview, the officer may ask, have you taken any of the tests like GRE or GMAT or a SAT? If a person hasn't, then the officer is wondering, is he really a good student? Does he really want to go and study there, or he's got other intent?
But what if, let's say student takes the exam and he has a very bad score, like GRE out of 340, let's say he has a 290 or like not a good score, then will that have a negative impact then?
It does not have a negative impact because, during the course of preparation, when we take the mock sessions, we suggest how to take your, how to deal with these kind of situations. But taking an exam shows your intent that you want to actually go and study there. So it is a good idea. Whether you get a high score or a low score, at least it shows your intent that you're really serious.
So taking the exam itself, shows that you are a serious student. Is that is that a fair assumption?
Absolutely, absolutely. I would totally agree on that.
Okay, then at the university selection point now, so it's more often, even when I was doing my master's, the cost is definitely a criteria. You would always go to a college that you can afford or where you are getting scholarships. So, so you are saying that at the interview, students should not mention the cost factor at all?
Absolutely, because the criteria of the visa interviewer is the visa law, and the visa law states that student must show their social ties, economical ties, and their professional ties to the home country. If you say that I've chosen a university because it is affordable, so the officer is thinking like, whether he's actually wants to go and study there or is he looking at cost, maybe his economical situation in India is not so good. So that's the reason he's chosen that.
Okay. So in spite of having all the financial documents and all, so you should still not mention that your reason for choosing that particular college is because it's cheap.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, that makes sense, And so this is already covered. That of course these are. I think weather is something anyway. That people should anyway not mention. Because of course that is. But location of relatives. What I have seen, location of relatives and cost affordability. These are actually some of the genuine criteria. But according to your recommendation during the visa interview, we should. Students should focus more on the clarity about the specialization, the quality of the college, etc. Right?
Correct.
Okay. So this is a little tricky. So what if a student actually ends up getting only one admission offer and only one I-20? Then is that negative?
It's not negative. As long as the student applied to various colleges, if he gets an reject. Let's say a student applies to 6 colleges, he only gets one admit. It's still okay because his focus is that he looked at a very spread out mix, which tell the officer that he wanted to select a university, not just go to one university. So I would recommend apply to other universities as well. But even if you get one, it doesn't make a difference.
So in the visa file, so the students should include the rejection letters also. Just to prove that he has applied to multiple colleges.
Correct. Okay. Absolutely.
So that will help. So even if he genuinely ends up getting only one I-20, he should then carry the reject letters of 3-4 more colleges.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. I personally never knew that carrying rejection letters. Most students carry only the admission letters.
No, but carrying those rejection letters is also positive because it shows your intent.
Okay, that you applied not to that one college.
Correct.
So there's this tricky bit where students, they have their elder brother or elder sister, or cousins, who are already living in the US, who are working in the US. So should they mention it, or mentioning it, is it a positive thing or negative thing? If it's negative, then should they mention?
Okay. Now, if they have, their immediate relatives, right, their real brother, and sisters and parents, then they must mention it because
cousins, not cousins.
Cousins, like it all depends. Cousins, they can, the system cannot figure out whether they have a cousin or not. But if they have a, real brother, sister, siblings, if they're studying over there on H1, it is not negative. And in any case, you must mention because the name of the parents and the date of birth on both the applications will match up and show up on the system.
Okay. So, but probably the recommendation is not to go apply only to the colleges in the state where the brother or sister is living, right?
Unless that is a highly ranked university, then it's okay.
If they apply, let's say I have a brother who is working in California, so I should apply to a mix of colleges, not just in California, right?
In any case.
Yes. Okay, that's a standard. Okay.
Yeah, that's a standard kind.
And what if that brother is sponsoring my education? Should I say it?
Again, the officer during the course of the interview is looking at how strong your family is here financially. So in any case, do carry documentation from your family from India. Your brother could sponsor you. He could be a support. but your primary sponsor should be your parents in India.
Okay, okay. Oh, I have also seen these cases where the primary support, not the parents, but grandparents. So should is that okay?
Yeah, I mean they can have a mix.
Okay.
In any case, they should carry documents from the parents, even if the grandparents are supporting.
Okay.
So during the interview,
Right.
they should always mention that my family is going to take care of my expenses. This is what my father does, but my grandparents are also there to support me.
Okay.
So they should not be the primary source.
Right. Okay. Okay. So this is pretty clear that when to apply. So and yeah, timing. I think we were on timing. So
Right.
Right.
So one is the mode. If I talk about March, that is the time when a lot of people from India are traveling to the US as for tourists. So the officer when sees a student, whereas a tourist would go and only stay there for maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and suddenly he sees a student who wants to go and stay there for 3 years. So the officer kind of have a different mode. So better to apply in May, which goes until June or July, because that's the time and then he would have seen a lot of students going in.
Okay, just let us take a pause here. So are we audible? Are we audible?
Okay. So a lot of people come out and say that I've heard that Chennai is bad or Delhi is not that friendly or Mumbai is good. The regulation states that anyone who stayed in the council district for 6 months or more should apply in their council district. So let's say a person from Delhi has been living in Pune for the past 1 year, so he should go to Mumbai as his consulate. And most of the officers, not most, but all of the visa officers are trained, at one place. So they're not trained for Chennai specifically or Hyderabad specifically. So I would recommend that stick to your consular district most of the time, because that would really help. That would help them assess your case much better.
So is it a rule though that I mean a lot of engineering students specifically, they live in hostels. For instance, in Delhi we have students who live in hostels, but so for the last 4 years they would be like living in Delhi, but their parents are from Meerut or let's say Hyderabad, I don't know, so
Right.
that's their native place. So in that case also they should apply to the Delhi embassy or
Okay, so this is a good point, because most of the time you get these kind of questions that I'm basically from Delhi, but I've been staying in Bangalore for the last 3 years. So they have an advantage. They can choose Delhi because most of their documents, their property documents, their assets and everything are going to be from Delhi or North India. So they can choose either go to Chennai or apply for their visas in Delhi. So there's no restriction as such.
Okay, so it's not a rule, but what I'm saying is it's recommended if they apply in the consular district where they have been staying for 1 year or more.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I touched on this point. So it's like not that your chances would grow if you're from Delhi and go and apply for your visa in Mumbai, but sometimes it happens that Mumbai is issuing more. Sometimes a person gets refused twice in Delhi, then he goes to Mumbai, and by luck he gets one. But over 27 years of experience, I've experienced that if you stick to your consular district, it's always better. It's always better to apply for your visa in your consular district. Your assessment for the visa officer gets a little better.
This is there's some myths around this. Like when just last week, one of our students, he just asked me that I'm a Patel from Gujarat, so will I have lesser chances of getting a visa, and there's another student, who asked me that that I'm a Muslim, my name is it is Muslim name, so because of Trump and all of those things, will I be given a visa? I'm a Muslim, will I get a visa? So these two questions, these two communities, I keep facing queries, Gujaratis and Muslims. So how genuine are these, like concerns?
Okay, so these concerns are concerns for a person, but I don't see that as a concern, because if a Patel come and says like I'm Patel and the visa officers would not issue a visa. So I say that how many Patels are in the US? There are hundreds and thousands. So it's like case specific. It's not that a particular community is targeted, or like if it's a Patel or a Muslim, because in Delhi we say that my name is Singh, so will I get a visa or not? I'm like from Amritsar. Okay. So it's not the case. Very typically if you see the visa form, there are certain questions which says that have you worked in the armed forces? Do you know how to be in an armed conflict? So I had a very typical case where a person who's a Muslim was working for the special forces in the army. He was posted in in Jammu and Kashmir, and he was going for his MBA after he took a early retirement. And so he had to mark yes. He'd been in an armed conflict. He knew how to fire. He knew how to make bombs, and he was a Muslim. And unfortunately, his name matched with a terrorist. But he still got his visa. There was a certain process which he had to go through, but he's got his visa. So there is no worries as such at all.
So these are just myths then.
These are all myths.
Okay, so
I'm sorry. So it all depends how you go and present your case. If you're like we mentioned earlier, if you've taken a GMAT, if you've applied to various colleges, if you know what you want to go and study there, and how will you connect it with your career goals in India, I don't see a problem at all, whether it's a Patel or a Singh or a guy who's Muslim or anybody. So you have to be very sure that what you want to go and study there, and you have to have a reason to go and study there, not just that I like the weather.
Yeah, of course. So if they like the weather, they should go as a tourist, right?
Absolutely. I like Florida because it's a great place.
Yeah.
Not like Florida Institute is a good place for me to go and study there. Yeah.
Okay, that brings us to documents, how to make a strong visa file.
Okay. So when we talk about documentation, so to start with, there should be no fake documents at all. It's a big no. Even if you're qualifying, if the officer wants to see your document, and if he sees that there is a document which is made for the purpose of visa, you'll be barred for the rest of your life. So I would recommend that do not ever carry any document or do not misrepresent your case at the embassy at all, because that really jeopardizes your case for the rest of your life. Like I mentioned, when you're going for your visa interview, your records would stay in the system for 99 years. So if you're 20, so you talk about 110 by the time the record would go off. So never carry any document which is fake.
So this is another common question that I face, that in the US, when we apply to get the final I-20, you have to give some financial documents, which are mainly liquid cash. They need some XYZ amount of liquid cash. Now those documents and visa documents, at visa stage also you have to show your financial strength, or so you have to show documents for those. So those two sets of documents, the set that they send for the I-20 and the set that they are preparing for the visa, do they have to be exactly the same?
Okay, not really, because so we have to also understand the I-20 is not issued by the university. It is issued in sync with the immigration office. So any form in the US which starts with I is from immigration. So I-20 is from immigration. So when we talk about the financial documents, the immigration wants to see a bank letter which matches the balance of the bank letter should match with the I-20. So most of the time people would arrange for documents and get a bank letter and send it to the university to get the I-20 issued. So most of the officers understand that this is the case, but when you go in for your visa interview, you can either carry that document along with all the other financial papers which shows that your family is financially stable in India. So which could include the tax returns, the salary slips, the fixed deposits, shares, bonds, mutual funds, property papers, anything which is finance, you can carry that.
Oh, okay.
Right. So there could be two sets of documents which are different.
And if a student has taken an education loan, so does that have a negative impact?
No, it doesn't have a negative impact. But then again, during the course of the interview, how you present your case is really important. For example, if the officer says that how will you fund yourself, if you start by saying that I've taken an education loan, so it goes in a different direction. So this possibly tells the visa officer that your family is not financially stable in India. So first talk about your financials in India, that my parents are going to take care of my expenses. This is the annual income. That's the total saving that we have. This is the property we have. In addition to this, I've taken an education loan. So the education loan should come in the end, not in the beginning.
Actually, I had this genuine case about a few years ago when I was still doing admissions counseling. So there's this one student of ours was like a really rich family business background, So, but he was a fiercely independent guy. So he took the education loan, because he wanted to take the education loan. He did not. So in his case, I remember his visa interview. He said this, that my family has this businesses, my father has this, that, all the financial. Then he said, but however, I want to stand up on my own 2 feet. That's the reason why I'm not joining my family business to begin with. That's why I have taken the education loan. So he didn't face any visa rejection or anything.
Correct, but at the same time, he told about his family background.
Yeah.
So that is important. So, I mean, I see a lot of MBA students doing this.
Right.
So there's a way of putting that answer.
Right,
Like you
right.
correctly said,
Yeah.
first talk about what the family does here and then say that I would like to be responsible for what I'm doing.
Okay.
So I've taken an education loan so that once I complete my education, I come back to India, work in the industry and repay the loan in easy installment and also get a lot of tax benefits. So that's how you put it.
Oh yeah, because the tax benefits.
Correct,
right?
correct.
So when you are applying for the I-20, when you're sending your finances, so you can send the loan sanctioning letter also. Then in the I-20, the finance bracket, it comes as self loan.
Correct.
Right. So is that a negative thing? I mean, can you then it kind of your I-20 is saying it even before you can say anything. Your I-20 is saying it that your primary source of funding is loan. So is that a negative thing?
No, it's not negative. Again, like I said, how you go and mention this during the interview. So the officer says that your I-20 says it's an education loan. You would say yes, sir, it's an education loan because consolidating all the funds to meet the deadline, was difficult.
Right.
And plus, I've taken an education loan because though my family is pretty much stable here, they have a lot of financial support. But I would like to be responsible.
Yeah. I think you can also say this, right? That that the I-20 requires liquid cash, and nobody in India has like 60-70 lakhs of liquid cash lying around.
Absolutely.
That's why the loan, right? Okay,
right.
yeah. So
consolidation was
right, the
difficult.
consolidation, right. Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so other than that, I think the no fake documents is the major thing.
Yes.
I have seen there are consultants. I have seen actually mainly in South India.
Right.
They provide the fake documents.
Right.
So,
I understand. I mean, if you talk about that's the reason they have a separate consulate in Hyderabad. Because the verification over there is really quite a lot because a lot of consultants, not only there but other parts of the country as well, they provide documents for a fees. I would highly recommend that never do that. I had a very typical case. So there was a consultant who called me. He said that my guy went for his interview, but the officer kept his passport and all his documents and he wants to verify. So I said, what happened? So can I talk to the student? So when I was talking to the students, his English wasn't that very good. So when I asked him what was your TOEFL score, he said 110. So I said, how come?
Right.
So there's a disconnect.
Oh, okay. So his TOEFL score was fake.
Exactly.
Alright.
And then the financial papers. Most of the time, the officer is not looking at your documents. But if he suspects, then he can look at your documents, keep your documents, and get them verified. So I would say that focus more on whatever genuinity you have. Focus more on your GRE and your GMAT score, selection of the university, selection of the specialization, and then connect it with your career goal. That should be your focus. Okay. Yeah. So like I mentioned, I've been repeating myself that we have to also understand how everything gets connected. So your I-20 comes from the immigration office, which has a unique service number. Any form starting with DS, like the DS-160, which is the visa form, it is Department of State. The service number goes to Homeland Security. So all those documents are connected with each other. So when you're filling the visa form, make sure that your name and date of birth and your passport details are absolutely correct. And all the information provided on your DS-160 matches with your profile because it's going to stay in the system for 99 years from the day you submit it. So for example, when you apply for your visa, and then once you go to the US, when you're applying for your license, when you're applying for your OPT, once you complete your education, all those details are going to match up. When you apply for your H1 or if you apply for green card, all those things would match up.
Okay, so no, I have a couple of questions around this part, the documentation. We have seen that in lot of cases the names, in the Indian passport, for instance, you do not need a last name. You just have a first name. It's not mandatory for you to have a last name. But when students apply for their whether it's a GRE exam or TOEFL exam, or the university applications, they require a last name. So in many cases they just write LNU or they just write something, so and that's what comes on the I-20 also.
Right.
And so and that's what then they have to fill in the DS-160 also, right? Because the name in the I-20 and the name in the in this DS-160 should match, or on the DS-160 should they write the name exactly like in the passport. So it's a little confusion.
Okay. So most of the time you have to match up all your details according to your passport. If your passport does not have a last name, then you have to if your first name is given, let's say that the name is Ramesh and there's no other name mentioned, so you have to mention Ramesh in your last name. In your given name, you have to mention FNU, first name unknown. That's the policy adopted by the State Department. But when you're applying for your I-20, you have to mention your name like Ramesh, and Ramesh you have to repeat it so that the last name and the given name is not left blank. It has to be same, right? But on your visa form, your given name is Ramesh, but on the DS-160 you have to mention last name as Ramesh and given name as FNU. So that's how it works.
So, right now, since people have time, those who are applying for fall 2018, so if their passports do not have the last name, so should the recommendation be that go and change the passport name?
Absolutely. They need to because the policy states, because FNU, if you do not have a last name mentioned on your passport, and so everything that you from there on, once your visa gets approved, you go to the US, your license would have an FNU, your social security would have an FNU. So your entire process in the US would always have FNU. So if you have time, it is recommended that go ahead and get your name bifurcated and have a last name and a given name.
Yes, actually this is a very good time. Those of you who are targeting the fall 2018, if your passports do not have the last name, before taking any of the exams, before registering for GMAT, GRE, TOEFL, IELTS, before registering for any of the exams, go and change your name in the passport. It's just do it in Tatkal, so it will take around 10-12 days. So otherwise, it will be a lot of mess later on. So
Correct.
Do check, go back home and check whether your passports, whether they have the last name or not. If not, then just go ahead and change it. So that should be one. So Anand has a question here that last year his B1 was rejected. Actually, that was going to be one of my questions as well. That we have cases where students, their tourist visas get cancelled, their H1Bs get cancelled, or whatever, their earlier
Right.
visa rejections. What's the impact of those?
Okay, so basically there is no impact as such unless the information on your visa application of your B1, the DS-160, and your current application for your student visa F1 is consistent. So there is no effect on that. So be very sure that when you're applying for your visa, your focus has to be again the specialization and the choice of college. So B1 or H1 does not have any effect, the rejections.
So what if a student on F1 gets rejected a couple of times then?
As long as it's consistent. I've seen people getting rejected like 5-6 times.
Yeah.
As long as they're consistent, they have been issued visas in the past.
Okay. Right. But if between one visa rejection and the next visa application, should there not be a change of situation or case or something?
By and large, if you see a student, the change is very difficult in their profile.
Okay.
Even if they apply after a year, their profile wouldn't change.
Right.
So it's not that they should wait unless the choice of college was really, really bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in your experience, what are some of the top reasons for F1 visa rejection?
The first is clarity. If a student does not have a clarity why he wants to go and study in the US, why has he chosen a particular college, if it's not clear that he has intentions to return back to his home country, and then he needs to target those companies that he want to come back and work for, understand what are the subjects that he's going to choose and how will that impact his career. If he's not able to discuss that during the time of the visa interview, it gets difficult for the officer to understand and then issue a visa to him.
So during a standard visa interview, not so sticky, standard visa interview, how many questions does a student get?
Okay, so this is very good because most of the time the visa officers are not only interviewing students, they're also interviewing whole lot, right? So in a day there are close to about 1,000 people applying. The officer would have only 2 minutes to assess your case. He's looking at very normal questions, and if you're able to convince him during that interview, like why you want to go and study in the US, why have you chosen this particular college, who's funding you. So most of the time they're not going to take more than 2 minutes, 4 questions or 5 questions, that's it.
Okay, that's it. Not more than 2-3 minutes.
Absolutely.
But of course, based on the answer, there may be lead questions. Questions,
absolutely.
Right. Well, let's do a demo. Let's say that let's say you are the visa interviewer and I am a student applying. So let's just
So I'm the visa officer.
Yeah, you're the visa.
You're the visa officer.
No, you are the visa officer. I'm the student.
Okay.
So just let's do a kind of like
Alright.
a role play kind of thing, just to see see how. Ask me a question.
Okay.
No,
So if I ask you, why do you want to go to the US?
I go to the US because because the education system there is very good. The quality of professors very good, and yeah, and I'm very interested in robotics, and the field is far wider in, like far stronger in the US than in India.
Okay. So why have you chosen NJIT?
Oh, NJIT, okay, yeah. I applied to actually 5-6 colleges, depending on my profile and depending on my GRE score. I applied to 5-6 colleges. So, of the colleges where I got admission, NJIT was the best.
Good. Okay, so who's funding you?
Well, my it's a mix of my father, my brother, so they are funding me. But I have also taken out a bank loan because I don't want my father is retiring soon, so I don't want him to be under financial burden. So I have taken out a bank education loan as well.
Okay. So what about your OPT?
What about it?
So would you like to do your OPT?
Yeah, why not? Because I think in a master's degree plus the OPT will make me highly employable in India.
Okay, good answers. But so I'll point out certain things over here.
Yeah.
So when we do the counseling, so I keep asking everyone, does the visa officer know you? So the answer is no. Right?
Yeah.
Close to about 1,000 people applying, so the officer has about 2 minutes. In that 2 minutes, he has to assess whether you qualify under the visa law or not.
Okay.
Right? And visa law states that you have to show your intentions of coming back.
Yeah.
So when I asked you why do you want to go to the US, so usually, most of the time the people would start with the quality of education in the US.
Right.
But that's general, right?
Yeah.
But the officer wants to know why you want to go and study.
Right.
So you need to tell him what have you studied here, connect it if you've been working, and then say what is the skill gap that you have, and you want to go and improve on your skill set, which would help you grow professionally once you come back.
So I say that the robotics field is far stronger in the US, so that is a good answer? Or
no, I would rather say that so after completing my BTech in India in 2014, I've been working for the last 3 years, and I see that the industry has grown. So my skill set, I need to improve on my skill set for my career growth.
Okay.
So I would like to go to the US to do my specialization in robotic, come back and work for companies like XYZ. So it's a clear connection between studied, what am I doing and what will I study there.
And what gap the US education is kind of
exactly.
will fill. Okay. Yeah, right.
And then why have you chosen NJIT? So your answer was correct that based on my profile and my shortlisting, applied to 6, got 2 admits or 3 admits, but NJIT stands out.
Right. Right. And how about your OPT question? That was a little tricky.
Right, that's tricky.
I didn't expect that.
Yeah, so when the officer is asking you OPT directly, so the answer to that should be, if you see your I-20, the I-20 has 3 pages.
Right.
The first is the academic,
Yeah.
the second is all instruction, third is about the work authorization.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a part of the education system.
Okay.
Right? So if the officer says, would you like to work there? So the answer should be no.
No, yeah.
If the officer says OPT, then you would say, so the OPT is an integral part of the US education system, which allows every international student to practice what they've learned in the classroom through internships.
Right.
So I would like to take the advantage of that, come back to India.
So what I said was that the master's degree combined with the OPT will make me more employable in India. So is that
correct?
That's
yes.
a valid answer.
But then also he should mention that it's a part of the education.
Okay, so correct. I should have said as a part of my master's degree, I am anyway entitled to 36 months of OPT. I should say that.
Correct, because that will improve on my skill set. And
that will improve that will give me a chance to practice what I have learned in the master's degree.
Which allows every international student, not only me.
No, okay. So I should say that also. But doesn't that sound a little defensive?
No, because it's a parameter, no?
Right. Okay.
ठीक है.
That's a good exercise. Yeah. So moving on. Yeah.
Is coming back intention to it. Okay, be clear about career goals, importance that US education, how will that educate and help you in achieving your career goal. That's exactly what we discussed. So your selection of the university or your course should be based on your career goals. So when you put your career goals in the forefront and then how you lead, then it becomes easier for the officer to understand that you are a legitimate student and you've got reasons to come back as well. So know about the industry in India, the organizations that you want to come back and work here, right? And then how it matches up with the education in the US that you'll receive. Okay. Once again, like we've been discussing about financial situation here. So one of the criterias of the visa officers issuance category is like social ties, economical ties. So be sure that you talk about your financial situation in India, that what are your parents doing here, what are the total savings and investments, and what's your property worth. So when you give this information, he understands that you're not going there for financial reasons, that you want to go and work in the US to support your family.
Right.
Whereas by telling him and giving him information, how strong your family is financially, it tells him that you've got reasons to come back, that you're not going there for working, but only for your education.
So I think the last point is very, whatever we have been saying, that do not carry any documents which are not authentic.
Absolutely.
So, right. So I think that is the most important part in the visa file, right?
Yes.
Do not have any document that is fake, that is remotely fake, if
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
Right. So I think at this point I'll just take some of the questions that are here. Let me see. Hang on. Okay, so it's related to name basically. Siddharth Patnaik has this question. My father's first name is mentioned in initials in graduation mark sheet, but it's mentioned in full name. Okay, so your whatever names are there in your graduation mark sheet, your college degree, all of those, that's fine. You know, in India, you know, there are different types of names. You know, like your first name, middle name can be father's name, then all of that. So, or it can be shortened also. I have seen a lot of degree documents. You know, I had a student, it's a Arati B was on the documents, and all the college documents. So that was perfectly fine. So you don't have to worry anything about it. You know, whatever names are there in the college documents, they have no implication. The only thing is the passport name. Of course, in your there are also cases, by the way, that when you studied, you were probably not married. Your name was I don't know. Meena Saxena, let's say, and then you get married, and then you became Meena Mehta. So in your passport name is Meena Mehta, but your document name is Meena Saxena. No problem, all of that is fine. So I think Siddharth, that answers your question. Ayush, your question is, in my passport and birth certificate, my father's name has Kumar. So I don't think that's a problem at all, right? I think that's not a problem.
इसको हमको diplomatically answer करना है.
Okay, so I think Deepak and Ayush doesn't matter. Don't worry about that. Arif, your question is the coming back intention particular to US? What about countries like Canada who encourage working visa?
Okay, so when you are applying for a student visa, you have to show your intentions, right? So even if you look at the US, they have an OPT and an H1 which are integrated into each other. Similarly, for any other country, when you're applying for a non-immigrant visa, whether it's a tourist visa or a student visa or an exchange program, you have to show your intentions of coming back. Once you go there, you have the option and opportunity to have a work permit, work authorization, and then of course, a green card or maybe a PR. But during the student visa application, you have to show your intentions of coming back.
So, Gaurav Joshi has a question. How important are university transcripts for visa?
Okay, so when you're applying for a US visa, you're applying as a student. So in order to show that you're a student, so transcripts or your degree or both of that is really important. It gets important for the visa officer to see whether you've actually graduated or not. However, there are certain students, those who have 7th semester mark sheet, but they've recently taken their exam for the 8th semester. So if they can carry a course completion certificate with other semester mark sheet, it's okay to go.
Yeah, and I think when I was applying, I had this some domicile certificate or something from my university, from my college, so just to show that I was a student.
Correct.
But Gaurav, if your question is regarding whether your marks are important or not, then the answer is no. Yeah. See, especially in India, we have got like tons of colleges who offer tons of programs and where the courses are graded differently. So the visa officer will not know what's the meaning of a 70% or 60%, right? So what marks you have scored is not that important, So Maido has this question. Does the visa officer know how many universities did I apply to, how many admitted me / rejected me, and how many I-20s were issued to me?
Maido, I would recommend that, like I've been repeating myself, it is very important to be absolutely upfront with the visa officer. They have a system, and we're talking about a US consulate. So it's better to be upfront the number of universities you've applied to and the number of I-20s you've received. So it's better to carry whatever information you have, be as authentic as possible.
Right. It's not worth the risk, Deepak, I think I already addressed your question. If your father's name on your mark sheet is something else and his name is something else in the bank document, just a difference of Kumar, I don't think that will make a difference. That will not make a difference. Barsha, your question is brief information of tourist visa for NBD exam. So Barsha, today's session is mainly for F1 visa. So we are not going to touch upon any other visa because the information is totally very different for other types of visas, right? Maido, your question is, I did have a substantial amount of backlogs in bachelor's. How will that affect my visa? I think I already answered that. Your quality of your grades don't matter. The fact that you have finished a degree, you have applied, got admission in some university, that's enough. What marks you got or in how many years you completed your bachelor's degree, that's not that's not an issue. Niladri's question is, how about countries like Singapore, Hong Kong and UK? Are there any specific points to be kept in mind other than intention to come back?
Again, the parameters for most of the countries will remain the same. Choice of college, selection of university, the specialization, and of course your funding. All those things are very important in terms of all countries.
So Niladri, the US visa is perceived as the most difficult one because there is a face-to-face interview. Other places that at least you don't have to face an impromptu interview. You will not get nervous. So the chances of getting the visa, that's why it is perceived as kind of higher in other countries. But your financials have to be done. The paperwork has to be extremely correct and strong because you are not going to present your visa file there. You are sending it. You're submitting it. The visa officer, even if he has some questions, he's not getting an opportunity to ask you. So your documentation part in any country other than US have to be very clear. Jaita has this question. It's a kind of long question. My place of birth and the place that she grew up, they are two different places, but her mother was staying there. My permanent address is mentioned in PAN and voter card, but my permanent address in passport is mentioned where I brought up. Well, okay, no, it will not be a problem at all. In fact, I'll give my own example. Like, I was born and brought up in some other place, of course. When I made my passport, when I was studying in Nagpur, right, which is totally different state, from where I grew up in. So my passport had the Nagpur address. So, but all my documents had some other address. So that's not a problem at all. Within a country, it's perfectly fine. Deepak Agarwal, your question is, do you also have to carry your property papers of the home country to the interview? Oh, of course, yes, that's a part of the financial documents. Property, a lot of students, they also carry a CA certificate doing evaluation of jewelry, stuff, and anything that proves your financial strength is good. Basha, no, we are not going to hold any webinar for tourist visa. We are an education institute. Our students want the F1 visa, so today's webinar is about F1 visa only. Kapesh, your question is, I am planning for fall 18 and my passport would expire 2020. Should I get it renewed before? No, you don't need to, but I would recommend that you should, because it will kind of expire just at the end of your master's degree before the start of your OPT. So I think it you should renew it if possible. So Sharayu, your question is, I got admit from Singapore. Should I mention that? Yeah, all admits. All admits. Pratik Chaudhary, looking at current European job market, is it fine that we apply to Europe countries and there is chance of rejecting visa, especially for? No, there's nothing like that. Don't worry about it. These are all myths, and the point is, see, the job market everywhere is very flexible. So don't worry about all these things. Visa acceptance and rejections have nothing. Student visa acceptance and rejections have nothing to do with the economic scenario or the job market. So don't worry about that. Jayavardhan, your question is, I am NCC. Should I include that? Will that be positive point for getting visa?
I mean, mentioning any extracurricular activity does not have any effect, adverse or positive effect on getting a visa. You will get a visa based on your course of study and your reason for coming back, not because you're an NCC cadet.
Anmol, if property papers are in the name of parents, would that help my case?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. You see, very few people will have property in your name. It will be mainly in your parents' name, so it's perfectly fine. Deepak's question is, I read online that you have something in home country to come back to. I currently live on rent. Don't really have an owned property. Should that be a concern? Well, that's not a concern. Your family would be here, your parents would be here. They would have. I mean, when you say you should have something in your home country to come back to, this something need not be material. things like family ties, like your family, your relatives, those are also things do not mean like inanimate objects.
Okay. And especially for the US visa, during the interview the officer is looking at your intentions of coming back and working here. So your career goals are really important than anything else. I mean, the financials, everything are important, but the most important thing is going to be your career goals. So focus on that.
Abhishek Ghimri, I am from Nepal studying in Jaipur. I have completed my graduation from Rajasthan, but I am going to apply from Nepal. So what all things, the things are standard. It's a US policy, it's not an Indian policy or Nepal policy. So irrespective of which country you are applying from, to get the US F1 visa, the documents, requirements, the process, everything's the same. Pratik has another question. There are loans in my name of father, so I will be having property papers on my mother's name. Will this affect my visa?
Not at all. Not at all. The loan on property does not make any difference because your property is still yours, right? Yeah.
So we're just heading into the last segment of our session. Just this is the port of entry. Right. So you'll be very surprised to know that just because you got the F1 visa does not mean that you will get to enter the country.
Right. So there are two aspects. I mean, rather three. First, getting your I-20, then getting your visa, and once you get your visa, there's another interview at the port of entry because the visa only allows a person to go as far as the port of entry of that particular country. At the port of entry, the immigration officer is going to take your interview again. So make sure that you're consistent about whatever you mention on your DS-160, because your DS-160 will be opened over there. So there are a lot of questions the officer may also ask. Make sure that you're carrying all legitimate documents and everything with you, including your education documents and of course your financial papers as well. They may ask you like, what is the purpose of your visit to the US? Of course it is studies. They may ask you what course you want to go and study, who's funding you, what are your plans, and where are you going to go and stay. A lot of students, they do not mention on their DS-160 they have a distant relative, but when traveling to the US, they like to go and visit them and then go to the university. So they forget that they did not mention this on their DS-160, which can be opened at the port of entry. So you have to remember what you mentioned on your visa form and then make sure that you go to the university directly and report to the university, and then possibly take your trip outside. Like I mentioned, all your means of support, bank statements, bank documents, carry copies, in your handbag. So the immigration officer understand that you have enough funds. You will not become a public charge.
Right. So basically, after getting the visa, so just don't forget about everything. When you're traveling to the US, so in your carry baggage, in your hand baggage, do have a folder with the same documents as you had, for the visa, right? So everybody thinks that, oh, I got the visa, I'm done. But you will hear cases, actually quite a few cases where students get deported from the port of entry, right, that they were not allowed to enter the country. So your responsibility or your concern should not be only to get the visa. You should be ready till the point of entry, and so you have not entered the US till you have entered the US.
Absolutely, yes.
So you have to convince the immigration officer at the port of entry also. And the port of entry officer, he would observe a lot of things, right from body language, the way you are walking towards him, if you are nervous, if you are looking over your shoulders, so he will observe a lot of things, so be confident, have all the documents in the folder in your hand, and be ready with everything. My only advice here is that remember whatever you prepared for your visa interview.
Right, and that's one thing. The other part is like, if you follow the news, they're now seeing your WhatsApp chat and everything. So be careful when you're chatting with your friends in the US.
Yeah.
That I'm going to be there. Do you have a job ready for me?
Yeah.
Things like that. You have to be aware of all those things. That whatever you are discussing with your friends, it should be limited to your education at this point of time.
I don't know whether you guys heard or not, last couple of weeks ago actually, about 15 or 16 Harvard students were, the university withdrew the admission offers because of their Facebook post, right? So be very, very careful of what you are putting up in your social media, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or whatever, right? So if you are putting up a picture of my cousin in California, I'm going to join him soon, I'll stay with him. So don't put stuff like this on your social network stuff, right? All of that. Once the US gets your visa application, everything comes under scrutiny. So don't be stupid enough to say that can't wait to go to US and work there.
Yes.
So, so stop. You should. That is like a sure shot. Rejection. So be careful of what you're putting up on your on your social media things. If you right now also, if you have some posts like those, I think you might just probably delete them. So everything counts. Oh yeah, and your WhatsApp. Actually we had a case where a student, I think the port of entry immigration officer, he looked at the person's phone in the WhatsApp chat. He was planning a get together with a cousin for a job interview or something.
Yes.
And he was sent back from the port of entry. So keep an eye on all of those. So when you are entering the country, just make sure that your phone is clean. There should not be anything referring to how happy you are to go to the US and work there and earn a lot of money, and asking questions such as, okay, how soon can I apply for a green card?
Right.
So there was actually I was reading, not from India but another student who was deported because sent back from the port of entry because he had on the WhatsApp just a long chat. He was a part of this WhatsApp group saying that how to apply for green card.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So all those things, we have to be very, very careful. Things that not well known, but as technology is advancing, so are the various means of keeping tabs on students. So
correct. So let's stick to the basic. Cross the bridge when it comes.
Yeah. Right. So just couple of questions here. Mandira, any particular points to keep in mind while applying for Canada? I think we already covered that. That is already done.
Yeah.
Mukesh, do we need to have original of property papers?
Copies.
No. Copies.
Property papers, copies. Financial documents, original.
Yeah. Financial documents. What do you mean by financial documents?
Financial documents could be a bank statement.
Oh yeah. Bank
fixed
statement.
Deposits.
Right.
All those documents should be original.
Right. But property papers can be copies.
Yeah.
Right. Do they have to be like attested copies or simple photocopies?
Just copies.
Simple photocopies.
Yeah.
Okay. Deepak, your question is, do you need to book your air ticket beforehand and make their proofs in the interview? No, you don't need to do that. Siddharth, do I need to apply for change in my father's name? No. I think we already replied to this question, Siddharth. Your father's name, if there is a name change in the way it appeared in your documents and the way it appears in his financial documents, not a problem at all. Prakhar, your question is, what points should be kept in mind while applying for visa? Again, Singapore, Canada, UK, exactly same points. Only thing is that there you are not going to get a face-to-face interview, so your documentation should be far more clear and strong. That's it. Otherwise the objective of all these visa interviews is the same. You have to prove that you want to come back. Right. Mukesh, do we need to carry, or I think we answered this. Okay, Siddharth, we already answered that. Soumya, 6-month bank statement, is it necessary?
It is good to carry 6-month bank statement. If not, at least 3 months, it is necessary.
Mandira, no, it's not mandatory. Only the US requires a face-to-face interview for student visa. Right. So here are a few things that you should prepare while entering the US. This has nothing to do with the visa. We are now talking about the entry point. I know that for those of you who are applying for fall 2018, this is too early to talk about how to enter the US. But just remember this. Don't forget about these points. In 2018. Because deportation can happen anytime.
Anytime, yes.
Right. So you should have a valid passport, a signed I-20 form, the visa. So I think we already said this, that whatever documents you had, you had prepared for your visa interview, have them in your carry-on baggage. Don't put them in your checked baggage, right? Because
yes.
Always have it in your. You get to the checkout baggage point after you get past the immigration person. So before you before collecting your baggage, you have to cross the immigration point. So all your the visa file, the file carrying all your documents, all of they have to be in your cabin luggage.
Make sure that you carry the name and contact information of your college designated school official, because then the immigration officer may like to contact him to get some information. So make sure that you have all this information with you ready.
Right. And I think as soon as you get an admission offer to a university, the Indian Student Association or the International Student Association, they will also send you a separate packet of letters and information. You can carry that as well. They will, so as many points of contact that you have in the US, that's helpful. So carry those in your carry-on baggage, your cabin luggage. Right, so we will take a few questions now. I think we have already covered quite a few questions, but we'll take a few more questions. And in case in future, if you come up with any questions, if you maybe later in the day, if you can think of any question, you can always email them at this ID. Have this you can take a click a picture of the screen if you want to. You can always send in your questions to this ID, right? Okay, so Deepak's question is, are your father's bank statements required? Yes. Yeah, I mean, if your father is financing you, if he is your main sponsor, and so of course you have to carry your father's bank statements. But if he's not your main sponsor, if your mother is your main sponsor, and whoever your main sponsor is, whose money you are showing, you need to carry their that person's bank statements. Twinkle, no. Deepak, your question is, what about records of income tax? I think we covered all of that.
Correct. Yeah, you need to carry 3 years of tax returns to show that you have an inflow of money which is coming in, like the annual income.
Yeah, that's a mandatory thing. It's not that it's not optional. 3 years of IT income tax returns is you have to carry for your visa. That's a process. It's a part of the visa file. Anmol, do we need to delete WhatsApp, Facebook, emails before reaching? I would not say delete. I would just say be careful about what you are talking. Deleting, not having on your phone completely is also suspicious, by the way. So don't discuss. Just I think don't be stupid is the standard advice.
Right. Yeah. Don't put in details that I want to come and work there. Yeah. What is the daily wages? What is the dollar rate for per hour? You have to restrain yourself from all that. If you're talking about the quality of education, if you're talking to your students group where it says that how important it is for you, for your career, all those things are very important.
Right. If you're talking to, let's say, 3-4 other students who are going to the same university, if you're talking about, okay, can we share a room, can we be roommates, all of those are perfectly fine. But whatever can get you a visa rejection, those things should not be on your social media pages or your WhatsApps or email IDs, because those will also lead to your deportation. Those can also lead to your deportation. Abhishek, any idea regarding the GRE score required? Okay, so Abhishek, this is a visa session, not about GRE session. So for these questions, you can contact your counselor, or you can send an email to this ID as well. But I would recommend that you talk to the center wherever you are taking your classes. Deepak, it's a ITR of your sponsors. If it's your family company, if it is your father, mother, whoever is funding your education, in ITRs of all of them, not just you.
Correct. And Deepak, if you're working, then of course you need to carry your ITRs as well.
Right.
And of course your family members, those who all are your sponsors.
Right. Mandira, your question is, only recent chats will be looked into. We don't know. We don't know what the immigration officer might see. Once the immigration officer takes the phone from your hand, nobody can guess what he's going to look at. But there have been cases where people have been deported based on their WhatsApp chats. I think one of your...
one of my students, no, he was on an H1. When he was going, one of his CV, he had really tweaked it, and the officer looked at his CV and he matched up with his entry and exit. He was sent back.
Oh my God, that's scary.
I mean, he worked there for 4 years,
right.
And when he was re-entering at that point of time.
Deepak again has a question. If I am taking a huge loan of they would ask, how would you be able to repay such a big loan in India? Yeah, fair question, fair enough question.
Yeah, so the answer would, if the question is how will you fund yourself, so you got to first talk about your family funds, the total savings and investments, property, and then the education loan. If the officer says that how will you repay the loan, they say that, sir, that the Indian economy is still growing, so once I come back I can repay the loan in easy installment, and I'll also get a lot of tax benefits. So it's my financial planning, because I would like to be responsible for what I'm doing. So that would be a fair answer in that case.
Right. And 30-35 lakhs is not a huge loan. In India, people take home loans of like 70-80 lakhs, right? Yeah. So 30-35 or 40-50 lakhs is not a huge amount. People, you get 20 years to pay off a loan. Okay. So that's like nothing. We if you ask around, people take home loans of 70-80 lakhs.
Exactly.
So an education loan of 30-35 or even 50-60 lakhs is not that difficult to pay off you get 20 years to pay it off. Correct. Right? So that's not an issue. Okay, so we'll take two last questions. After that, we'll wrap up the session. So if those of you who do not have any questions, please feel free to log out. And so we'll just take last two questions. If you don't have any questions, then feel free to log out. Thank you, Sanjay.
Thanks, Osman, and thanks everyone for participating. Very good session.
Siddharth has a question. If someone takes international loans provided by college, then what?
Okay, like I've been mentioning, the officer is looking at how strong your family is here financially. So you can use that loan once you reach there, but during the course of the interview, it is always important to show your financial ties to your home country. So mention your documents from India, and once you go there, then you can have a co-signer, and then you can take the international loans over there to, pursue your education.
Deepak, are my father's ITRs necessary? I think we already addressed this question. It is necessary. It's not mandatory. It's not optional. Yeah. Submitting ITRs is not an optional thing. You have to do it. It's a mandatory thing.
Please reread it. If someone takes international loans provided by
college. This, I think his question is, are my father's... even if you are taking an educational, it's irrespective of what you are taking, education loan or what, doesn't matter. ITRs is a part of the documentation, even if you're not taking a loan. Does that help? Siddharth's question is, so I should not mention the international loan in interview if it is sanctioned.
Correct. Once again, the officer is looking at how, because if you take an international loan, which means that you have to work there to repay it, or if you come back and work in India, so repaying that loan would be a little difficult. So he's looking at your intentions. So I would recommend that even if it's sanctioned, do carry the documents from your family here in India to show financial ties.
Actually, in a lot of MBA students, they do get loans from the university.
Yes.
They have tie-ups without co-signer, but the amount is again that 40-50 lakhs range. Yeah. So they can pay that back from the home country also.
Right.
People do that.
Yes.
We have cases where people do that. Your amount, 50-60 lakhs, as I said, over a 20-year period, all these loans, even the CTSS loans or the Discover loans, there are loans in the US that universities help you to get without any co-signer. So those the amounts are like 70-80 lakhs, and you get 20 years to pay off. So that is still perfectly fine. The answer fits. That you can pay those back like while working in India as well.
No, agree. Okay, Deepak. So your question is, can I also state that I would look for some part-time work there or research assistantship to bear my expenses there? You can say that I would like to do an assistantship to gain experience, not to bear my expenses.
Right. Okay, so we'll just take one more question. Siddharth has a question. So I should take both the home documents and the international funding documents, or should I avoid the international ones? Whatever is genuine, take.
Yeah, carry both.
Whatever is genuine. Again, say don't
restrict.
Yeah, don't. See, fake documents is a guarantee, or hiding documents is a guarantee of rejection. Carrying international loans.
Coupled with your documents from India. So it should complement each other.
Right. Okay, all right, guys. Thanks, Deepak. I hope all of you found some information, and something to help you. And so yes, Deepak, we keep having these webinars actually actually Saturdays, and every Saturdays we have webinars. You can go to the webinars page on our website jamboreeindia.com, and you will see the entire schedule of webinars. You can choose to attend whichever you want to, right? Okay guys, everybody, thanks, have a nice weekend.